The earliest memories that I have, I used to deliver meals for Project Open Hand in Atlanta. So it was people who were suffering with AIDS. It was a window into people's lives that I would never, ever have had otherwise.
We used to do things like Thanksgiving Day on a regular basis, go and serve meals and just sort of reinforce the notion that we are so fortunate to be able to not worry about where our food on the table is coming from.
The first thing I can actually remember volunteering was when the church I belonged to in Bend, as I was growing up, was building a new church. And I remember probably being maybe 6 or 7 and stacking bricks in wheelbarrows.
Growing up in Southern Oregon, I remember my dad was part of the United Good Neighbors board and my mom worked at a junior league thrift store on Saturday mornings. And so it's something you kind of just grew up with.
I think that volunteering, it builds bridges in the community that we wouldn't necessarily, particularly in today's atomized society, build.
My best friend and I met through a volunteer experience, and actually just this past year I was his best man in his wedding. It's definitely a friendship that probably wouldn't have formed without that experience.
The most challenging part is giving your dog up. You totally fall in love with these dogs. I cried when I dropped my kids off at college. I cry when I drop my dogs off.
I became a big brother. I big brothered a boy who was an amazing kid, and I'll never forget when I left college saying goodbye to him. And it was a pretty powerful and seminal experience for me.
We have some trends right now that are not sustainable. There's a growing need in the community for all kinds of services. There's fewer resources at the government level to address those needs. What fills the gap is all the volunteer service.
You need organizations like Special Olympics, like the Humane Society, like the Historical Society, the Heart Association. The list goes on and on and on. We won't be able to move forward and solve problems without these volunteer organizations.
For those people for whom the marketplace is not accessible, that's where volunteerism comes in. It fills a huge gap of doing actionable things for other people that otherwise wouldn't get done.
Volunteers are the reasons that our program has expanded to become the size that we are today. We have volunteers coming from colleges and universities during the summertime that are essential to helping us work with youth.
I never recall coming back from that experience saying, man, I wish I hadn't done that. I'm really behind now. It's always like, thank goodness I did that. I almost feel like calmer. It's almost like therapy in some ways.
You meet new people, you see yourself in a new situation, and I think ultimately you learn as much from the experience as you actually give.
We love Oregon. There's a tenacious pride in Oregon and the Portland metro region.
There's something palpably special about our place.
We all feel this sense of tension between the Oregon we love and aspire to be and the one that the data keeps telling us we're kind of moving toward.
It's been part of the Oregon story, the Oregon tradition ever since the pioneer days, when folks from miles around would gather to participate in community barn raisings.
There's so many people in Portland who are mission driven. They don't just volunteer for anything.
The spirit of neighbor helping neighbor.
It's a cause they believe in.
Oregon is a really interesting place. We are able to have conversations about difficult subjects, and we're able to collaborate to come up with some pretty magical solutions.
If I have to explain volunteering in one word.
In one word.
So you want me to just tell you the one word? I'm torn.
One particular word.
The word for me is love.
Hope.
Hero.
Helping.
Service.
It really comes down to altruism.
Community.
Impact.
Energizing.
Gratifying.
The people who give of themselves.
I would define it as action.
I would describe it using the word alma.
Volunteering to me means difference maker.
Alma means soul.
I would say give.
It would be compassion.